they work with red, green, and blue. And I made like a relation with blue for the Spanish blood, red for the indigenous blood, and green for the African blood.
And what's happening right now?
Right now, it's a metaphorical or poetic point of the piece, making a reference to many projects supported by the government after the Mexican Revolution. It was in 1910, and these projects were called indigenism, which was exactly like to throughout anthropology study the different ethnic groups of Mexico for controlling them and bringing them into this mestizo like imaginary role of the Mexican that could enter into progress. You know, so it was like this idea of mixing all the cultures to get finally like this Mexican identity and Mexican nationality. So I can imagine that since they were like the ports, like
Africans down
yeah,
here.
yeah, since they were the ports, like many people concentrated there, and it was like a very important working area and so on.
But we can't read your beautiful wall here racially. And I mean, you did tell me there was some color identification, but it keeps changing.
Yeah.
So you weren't encouraging us to read it and look at it as those relationships. Just they are there. They did exist. But you're not trying to identify those per se, are you?
Yeah, in a way, like the main, how do you say, like my goal was to create something that speaks about this actual disguise of racism and classism in Mexico, because it feels like the norm in like social relations, this racist, but it's completely disguised. Like no one talks about it, everyone knows about it, but it's like it happens not at all.
Is that why they change color? Because it's the mixing of the cultures?
Yeah, like what I did is like a comparison between the data, like the blood percentages from the caste system, like down in the colony, and a very contemporary genetic study of the Mexican genome, which was published in 2009. And I just compared the data, the blood percentages, and that's what we are seeing here. Like the ones that were most alike, so to say, like the castes prevailed in history, and we still have them. That's like the political
Like everybody
commentary.
has blue or green eyes.
Yeah, and that's
Have you
like
ever been to Spain?
yes.
Okay, so you know about the African connection and the Moors and
Yeah,
everything
completely.
over there?
And the title of the piece is Taxonomical Comparative Study between the castes of the Kingdom of the New Spain and the ones of contemporary Mexico. No, so to say, we still live with this social structure. And what we see here, for example, like different percentages of different individuals. So to say, this individual has like 20% of indigenous blood, so the lights will turn on at 20% of intensity, and 80% of Spanish blood, they will turn into 80% of intensity, and that's why we have like a bluer atmosphere like in the space. For example, this one has like, I don't know, like 10% of African blood, and so on and so on. Then like 30 from Spanish blood and 60 from indigenous. And it's
What about the sound?
the sound. It comes from 3 different like cultural sources, which are exactly like the Spanish people with music from the first composer, Spanish composer who came to the colony in Mexico. Then all of the music sources are like polyphonic vocal music. Then we have music from indigenous people, like Purepe Purepecha, it's singing Purepecha, which is like an ethnic group. And for the Africans, it's music from Nigeria, which is like the place where most of the black people were taken to the colonies in America. So I worked together with a composer in order to transform the sounds to the same level of abstractness, so to say, as the lights. So you can't identify like the voices, but you can feel like the pitch. For example, culturally, why the people like select some instruments and how they sing and so on. For example, like the voices of the indigenous people in Mexico, they are like very high pitched, and that's why we have like these high pitched sounds. For the African sounds, we have like these percussions and these very deep voices, and this is like this very like almost kind of helicopter like do 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 do. And for the Spanish people, we have like this middle pitched sound, which comes, if you imagine like polyphonic music from the Renaissance and so on, you have like this feeling of middle tones, which are mixing. So it was this idea of mixing like colors as races and sounds as races.
You must have worked on this project a very long time.
Yeah, like 2 years and a half for the research. Yeah, a lot. And I have here a small booklet with like a selection of my notebooks and some other like anthropological images.
That's a beautiful book. That's beautiful.
Which were like important for me. This is like he's known as the father of anthropology in Mexico, and he started with this indigenism project. So he wrote this book, which is called Forjando Patria, 6 years after the Mexican Revolution, and it's something like forging nation, and since the title, it's like very important for me because it's this construction, this idea of forging and constructing like the nation throughout racist issues. And then I was based in many sketches and diagrams from the 19th century, from many French anthropologists who came to Mexico to study the races. And these are like very well-known paintings from the 17th and 18th century in Mexico. They are called like the casta paintings, and they depict like the mixtures of the races and their activities and their clothing. So they have like very important anthropological information. So I did these interventions with my system, with my colors, placing them in the heads, like to make it like more evident. So this is 50-50 Indian, Spanish, African Spanish, and the product, you know? And this is like trying to use scientific diagrams, such as genetic laws of Mendel, but with these political, like these social issues, and it turns to be like very political, like who's like the dominant, who's like the recessive, and so on. And many images of this romantic construction of the indigenous world, which is totally absurd.
You submitted squares along with colors?
Yes.
I have not seen it.
And some coincidences, I found these diagrams of the chromosomes as red, green, and blue rings. So I thought it was